A foggy night in Victorian London, just the sort of cover the murderous Jack the Ripper would have craved. Even as we prepare for the artificial frights of Halloween, a host of sleuths are investigating the very real terror that gripped London so many years ago. Lee Cowan has been watching them at work.
Along the back alleys of London's East End, a booming business lurks in the dark.
Jack the Ripper tour, guys.
Anybody for the Jack the Ripper tour?
Jack the Ripper tour?
Yes.
Yeah, have you booked them online?
Yes.
This isn't just for Halloween.
Welcome to Whitechapel.
This macabre gathering happens nightly. A band of the curious following in the very footsteps of London's Victorian villain, Jack the Ripper.
If anybody sees a guy with a top hat and a big mustache and a knife, about 180 years old, just ignore him, yeah? Every night of the week, we're busy.
What do you think it is?
I think it's the mystery, and it's the environment he did it in, the gas lamps and the cobbles and the Victorian London, the top hats, this kind of thing.
Mick Priestley is our rather gruesome guy.
Somebody had cut a throat deeply in a 9-inch injury across here that was met by a 6-inch one running back underneath.
It's been 127 years since Jack the Ripper terrorized these streets.
Some of the pictures I'm going to show you here are bloody awful. That is Catherine Eddowes in the mortuary.
And yet, for many, he's still hiding in history's shadows.
I saw the Ripper. He ran down the other end.
Hollywood has made the Ripper more myth than man. Top hat and cape, shrouded by fog, chased by the likes of Johnny Depp.
This is methodical. Butchery is irrational, yet meticulous and deliberate.
But his crimes are savage in their brutality. His victims were the poor, all women, ladies of the night, prostitutes, who'd taken to the streets of London in desperation.
When we talk about the Jack the Ripper murders, there is an element that we might fall into a situation where we're really glorifying violent acts against women. So we have to be a bit careful, I think.
Alex Warner is with the Museum of London, one place he says where Jack the Ripper should be on display. Because unlike Sherlock Holmes or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Jack the Ripper was very real.
It's one of the most famous crimes of all time, I would say.
The murders took place in London's Whitechapel district in late 1888. It's unclear just how many women the Ripper claimed. Most agree it was at least 4, probably 5, but some say it could have been more. But it wasn't so much his gruesome tally that turned the Ripper into a commodity. It was his coverage in the press.
For journalists especially, this was sort of like right, we've got something really juicy here to use to sell our newspapers.
Rarely had a crime spree, complete with illustrations, sold papers quite the way Jack the Ripper sold papers.
Some people have called it really the first modern crime that is being consumed by readers all around the world.
Letters sent to newspapers, purportedly written by the Ripper himself, pushed interest into hysteria. But many believe some of those letters were actually written by journalists, hoping to keep the story in the headlines. Little did they know that over a century later, he'd still be there.
As soon as somebody comes along and says, I found Jack the Ripper, everybody wants to know about it. Everybody's interested and he's back in the news again.
There are hundreds of ideas about his true identity, put forth by so-called Ripperologists. They fill shelves of books. One theory is that he wasn't even a man at all, but a woman. Year after year, they keep on coming.
Perhaps my favourite is that Stephen Hawking was Jack the Ripper.
Crime novelist Patricia Cornwell got into the Ripper game when she claimed to have solved the case back in 2002. She pointed to DNA found on one of the supposed Ripper letters, and then traced it back to British painter Walter Sickert, who did in fact have an odd fascination with the Ripper, even painting this, what he titled Jack the Ripper's Bedroom. But critics questioned the case Cornwell made, and to many, Sickert became just another in a long line of theories.
There's a massive industry in keeping this a perpetuated myth. It's a big business. It's like the Loch Ness Monster.
Russell Edwards, a self-described armchair detective, is the latest to use DNA to chase down the Ripper's identity. He claims Jack the Ripper was a Polish barber named Aaron Kosminski.
So how sure are you?
I'm 100%.
Without a doubt, it's him.
It's definitely him, yeah. No, it's very fragile.
The proof, he says, came from this silk shawl, now cut into pieces. He bought it at auction back in 2007.
Wow.
Police, he says, retrieved the shawl from the scene of one of the Ripper's most grisly murders, the killing of Catherine Eddowes on September 30th, 1888.
So all those white dots are blood?
Yeah.
Edwards hired a molecular biologist at Liverpool John Moores University to conduct the DNA testing on the shawl.
When he shows me the actual match, overwhelming.
He claims there was just enough genetic material left to link it to the victim. He even traced the DNA back to one of her distant relatives. That, he says, proves the shawl was there that night. But the question remained, who else was there?
This is where we got the DNA for the Ripper.
There was one other stain, one that yielded another kind of DNA. Genetic material, Edwards says, matched perfectly the DNA from the relatives of Aaron Kosminski, that Polish barber that he believes was Jack the Ripper. Police actually did consider Kosminski a suspect at the time, but he was never charged. He died in a British asylum, largely unknown.
We've proved this, all the story absolutely fits like a jigsaw puzzle,
Intriguing as all of this may be, critics say the shawl has probably been handled by too many people too long ago, and any forensic evidence, they fear, has probably been contaminated.
At this point, somebody has murdered Mary Ann Nichols down in Box Row, and
leaving just enough doubt that for many, on this Halloween anyway, Jack the Ripper, or at least his identity, is still on the loose.
I think if we'd caught him, we probably wouldn't be standing here now.